Do scope. This is Queez. Appreciate everybody's been rocking with the channel. Support, subscribe, hit that like button. We're gonna talk about the WNBA today, man. As y'all see reports, man, they don't seem like they feel optimistic that a deal can be reached just because of how far these sides are between, the owners and the league and the players. And look, it's peak WNBA season right now. They're ramping up towards the playoffs, but they got some deadlines that they kind of want to see some progress going. You know what I'm saying? October 31st is, a key date that they're banking on. And even though they can extend it past that date, these discussions, they got a lot of moves that's about to happen. They got these expansion teams that they're preparing for. They're bringing 2 in. You got to have a draft for them. Free agencies, but is going to happen soon. Like, it's a lot that they got to prepare for. So these deadlines are coming up, but we need to talk about this in full detail because it's a lot of people that regurgitate the same talking points when it comes to any time players in the WNBA want more money or to be paid fairly or what they're looking for in the CBA. You get the same talking points. Y'all losing too much money. Make a profit first. A lot of, you hear that over and over, right? But we're going to take a further deep dive into making clear what they're looking for, because a lot of people are confused on that or putting words in their mouth and seeing if this is it reasonable, is what the owners want, and kind of just take a deeper look into these negotiations that are going to take place for the next 6 months, right? So look, let's talk about what happened so far. Let's take a step back. Around the All-Star game, the WNBA All-Star game, there was a meeting. There was a meeting between a lot of the players, the union, the vice presidents, the presidents, of the player association, Breonna Stewart, the FISA, that they was meeting there as well. And then you had the owners. And in that meeting, they described the players as a waste of time. They felt like they were so far apart between what they were offering and what the owners in them were offering that they felt like it was a slap in the face, quote unquote. Now, the revenue sharing is the biggest obstacle of this CBA that's being negotiated. What people are failing to understand is the WNBA players are on record. Kelsey Plum, Satu, Breonna Stewart, and the FISA. A lot of these players are on record saying they're not asking to be paid like the NBA players. A lot of people are regurgitating that is every time they ask for more money that's what they're saying. That is not what they're saying. If you just listen to their quotes and what they're saying, they want a higher revenue share, a higher revenue split. Right now, the WNBA, those players only get about 9% of the revenue. 9%. The owners get the rest of that. And they are basically saying, based off of where the league is trending, the viewership is up. The evaluation of teams are going up. Teams are worth more now. The league just got a TV deal, and that TV deal is going to pay them, 11 years, $2.2 billion. The Disney, Amazon, and Universal deal, that's going to pay them an extra $200 million per season. So they just saying, with all these things coming in and everything going up, our revenue share should also go up. That is one of the main talking points that they are, negotiating for. And from that meeting, because we're going to dive deeper into that point, but from that meeting, the only thing that they made progress on was family planning and retirement benefits. So those are the things that they actually came away with some positive on. But the main issue, which could lead to a lockout, is the revenue sharing. They were so far apart on. So look, man, that led to them wearing the shirts, pay us what you owe us, right? And then that caused its own discussion. You had some people feel like, Candace, to be exact, if you want to get paid more, it would have made sense for you to take that opportunity to play one of the most competitive All-Star games you could, especially since most sports don't do that these days. And, you guys could have made a statement. That was her standing point. But their standing point is, look, we having fun. We just having fun. The season starts like 2 days after again. So, we didn't want to get injured or risk anything. So, that was their take on that. But let's get into a little bit more into actually what they want, okay? From what Kelsey Plum said, because we got to use quotes with y'all, man. I'm tired of so many people just not even just making up what the players are saying. So this is what Kelsey Plum said, quote unquote. I'm going to give a synopsis of what Kelsey Plum basically said they want, right? From her side of it, right? And well, she speaks for the player. They just basically want a piece of the entire pie, not just a part of the pie. Media rights, team ticket sales, jersey revenue. They want a revenue share model that allows their salaries to grow as the league grows. If y'all don't know, the WNBA has a fixed rate far as the revenue share model. So it only allows a 3% increase. If you compare that to the NBA don't really have a fixed model. They can grow as much as the league grows. So let's just say the WNBA grows and I don't know, I'm just gonna make something up. Let's just say ratings go up another 500%, ticket sales, revenue, everything goes up, and the league has gained an additional, I don't know, 300 million on top of what they already got. Well, they're still stuck at that fixed 3% increase on the revenue share. Where on the NBA, when the NBA had a boom year, theirs went up 10%. Now, I'm not saying they should grow and do everything like the NBA does, but you can understand when you have a fix, anything that is fixed, you kind of stuck there, and it doesn't really match up with what the growth of the league is, and that's all they're asking for is the growth to match up with the revenue sharing model. So let's go into another quote here. This is from Nafisa. And she said, I want people to understand that basically we get a very tiny percentage of all the money that's made through the WNBA. And which is obviously through our entertainment, the entertainment that we provide. So we want a fair and reasonable percentage of that. So that's where Nafisa is coming from. Then we got another quote from Wnba. Based off of what we saw and based off of what we're preparing is two fundamentally different systems. And she's the president. Okay, Wnba is the president. So she said after the All-Star game, she made that quote. And one that leans more towards a fixed percentage is what the league is responding to us with. And we want to have a better share where our salaries grow with the business and not just a fixed percentage over time. So that is the big talking point. That is the big holdup. And again, I told you guys the league is going to expand to 18 teams by 2030. And, that's going to be a big thing. More revenue is expecting to come in. The Valkyrie is the expansion team that just came in. They're worth the most in the league, so teams' values are going up. What they're trying to do is weed out the owners that don't want to invest. They're basically saying, look, you guys need to invest more into us from a healthcare perspective to a practice facility perspective to, all around. If y'all watched Unrivaled, I'm gonna look at Unrivaled, man. It was so shocking for what Unrivaled did and how they set up the players that if you ask all the players that experienced that, they were talking about they finally get treated like a player, a professional player. That was a shot right at the WNBA, right? Like that this new league makes us actually feel like a professional. And that is basically what they're kind of asked for. If you want to be a part of this growing league, you're going to have to pony up some money. Now, before I go into more of the players, let me give y'all the point of view of the owners. The owners are basically saying, look, y'all haven't been profitable yet. We put so much money into this league that has not been profitable yet. We have put millions and millions. We need to collect all that before we start giving y'all a bigger share of the pie. We need to continue to make our money back from a 30-year-old league where we have not been profitable in 30 years. That is what they're saying. Adam Silver is going on record saying, let me get his exact quote because I don't want to put it up here. Adam Silver said in 2018 that the WNBA loses roughly $10 million a year. $10 million a year. That is what Adam Silver is on record saying. And on that season, when the Liberty won their championship, they were saying that the league was going to lose $40 million that season. So at that point, they're basically saying, look, like we losing a lot of money putting this, whatever we are putting into you guys. And now you're asking for a bigger piece of the pie. If y'all compare that to the NBA had to fight for their revenue sharing model. They right now, they pretty much get a split. But for people who aren't familiar or at least looked into what the NBA was dealing with, they always still had a situation where the players got a lot of the revenue. And I think the WNBA, they look at that. And they might not ask for the same share, but they want a little bit close to what the guys get. But the NBA is a 70-year-old league. The WNBA is only 30 years. They had to grind and struggle to become profitable and to get to that point where they can get a higher revenue share. But let's just go to 1987. I went far back. I went far back, you guys. In 1987, the players got 53% of the revenue. Now, in 1999, the owners had a victory that they reduced the player's salary. But in exchange for doing that, they gave 55% of the revenue share to the players as an exchange. Now let's jump to 2006 when those CBA negotiations. The players ended up negotiating a 57% player share. So look, they have consistently been able to keep themselves over 50. So the players have fought to get the equal amount, and because of the money they were bringing in and how much those TV deals and just so much revenue the NBA brings, the players had a good argument for that. But in 2011, the NBA cracked down because, and y'all remember that led to a work stoppage, right? That was the lockout year. The recession, it was a recession going on. The league was claiming that they were losing $300 million per season, and 22 out of the 30 teams was losing money. That was their side of it. So they leveraged that against the players. And the players, they compromised. They said, look, y'all usually losing money. I get it. It's a recession. We'll drop our 57% down to 51%. That was a big win for David Stern and them. They got the players to take 6% off their revenue. And I think I read that it was like almost, if you add up the money they lost, it was almost $1 billion between that time. Like, that's a lot of money that they lost off of that 6%. So that is what you come with. And then Adam Silver, when he took over, it was like more of a win-win CBA that was negotiated in 2016, 2017. So there, 49-51 split. So the players got 51 and, the owners got 49%. So that is what the NBA players have been, they were able to get and consistently stay around over 50%. And as the league grows, their salary grew at a pace that matched the league. So that is what the WNBA players are trying to create for themselves. Something where the salaries match up with the growth of the league so they can get paid, or at least, obviously get what they feel like matches up with everything. And the progress the WNBA has made, you could feel like has maybe leveraged that or gave them more of a case. Again, they got that TV deal. According to the commissioner, national viewership is going up 23% year over year. Attendance is going up. A lot of things are going up where expansion makes sense. And, they're going to be adding more teams. Philly's going to get a team as well. So, look, they're going upwards. No one can deny that it's going in a positive direction. But, the owners need to get their money back. They feel like it's like a record deal. You know how like y'all hear about with the record deals? Like they'll give you a loan or advancement on your deal. And until they recoup, they're going to be taking all your money pretty much. That's kind of like what. They ain't taking all the WNBA players' money, but a lot of it, right? That's kind of where the owners are sitting there right now. Like they want to get a certain amount of that back before that happens. But again, the WNBA is fixed at a 3% increase, so that's what they're trying to avoid that. But let's tackle some other issues that was in that CBA as well. Also, one of the things they were vocal about too as well. Well, y'all remember reading about they were talking about charter planes and flights for the players. They actually weren't able to actually put that in the CBA though. They weren't able to fit that in there. And again, players are looking for them. The owners, if you want to own these teams on a thriving league, they want you to invest in stuff like that, man. They're going to really try to weed out these owners that are going to give them top of the line personnel, top of the line treatment. And it's going to go around that, look, this is what these owners are doing for them. Yo, you can't even do some of this for us. Players have left teams because of that. Players have left the Aces because they felt like of the treatment of what they were getting in Seattle. You get these things. If y'all Google how many stories have came about a players' mistreatment or they feel like things weren't handled properly and resources weren't there, it's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. They can also address the ref issue. It's a lot of, they don't have like the off-site replay team like the NBA does, and the referees don't get paid really much there at all. So if you factor that into as well, I think the players been complaining about that all year, and so is the owners. So so is the coaches. So that could be a big issue too as well. Now I think what's going to be a big deal that no one's really talking about is I think the owners are going to put something in that contract that will make it a little bit hard for you to do Unrivaled and Athletes Unlimited. Those are two thriving leagues that players, they're different, so they don't directly have the same format of the WNBA, but players compare it to night and day to the treatment that they get. And if the salaries start to match up or come close to, you're still going to have those players that yearn for, traditional professional basketball the regular way, but it might have a couple of players that seep through and might prefer, hey, I'm making good money here, 3-on-3. I'm going to just roll with that. Why not? I'm just roll with that. So, but saying there, look, I think, Gabby Williams is also a player that mentioned that she feels like, they want to keep players close to home. They want to make sure you arrive to your teams on time, and they're going to try to push away those other leagues. So that might be a real sticking point, because you're going to argue with two of the people that own the league, Nafisa and Brianna. Like, you going to tell them, like, I don't want our players to play on your league. You going to negotiate with them not to have their players play? I don't know. People are not talking about it being a talking point, a big one, but I would not be surprised if the owners try to get ahead of that before it becomes a potential issue going forward. But that is what the players are looking for, man. They looking for a higher revenue share. And look, the owners, they got a point too as well, man. They put a lot of investment into the league. Some put minimal investment. Like, they didn't really go out their way too much, but they're not as rich as the NBA owners. And some of the teams that own both, they're going to prioritize the one that's making the money, you know? So I get that. But now moving forward with the league having promise and teams are being sold for way more than what they were worth, you can't look at the teams like they used to. You can't look at the league like you used to. The players, and from my point of view, they deserve higher than the 9%. I don't know what percentage they deserve, but they deserve higher than 9% at least. 9% is crazy. I mean, it made sense for where the league was. They didn't have any leverage years ago. But I think now 9% it's a little bit too low. So let me know what y'all think, though. If you ask me if this is going to lead to a lockout, I'm going to say 60-40. So I'm going to go with 60% no, 40% yes. The only reason I'm saying 60% no is because the commissioner's talking a good game. Like, she agrees with the players. She sees what they're saying, and she agrees. She just got to get the numbers working together. She talks a good game. So there's a little optimism there. I mean, I feel like she does agree, and she agrees with the growth of the league and all that stuff. So that's where I'm hedging my bets that something will get done. And then sometimes, a lot of times, the players cave. They might not get 15 or 20%. Let's just say they're aiming for 20. They might end up getting 17, 15. Or if they aiming for 25, they might end up getting 19. So they might not get exactly the number, but I feel like they'll end up agreeing to something. So let me know what y'all think, man. Y'all think it's going to be any lockout here, or, let me know in the comments. So this is Through the Scope. This is Queese. I appreciate everybody rocking with us. I'm out.